What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Sports Muse podcast. We are talking about the Cleveland Browns today, and it is day 3 of 32 teams in 32 days. And like I said, we're talking about the Cleveland Browns. We've already talked about the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've already talked about the Baltimore Ravens. And last year, when I look back to on this podcast, I predicted the Cleveland Browns would surprise the NFL, and I said they would go 9-7. Well, I was right. They did surprise the NFL, but I was wrong because they did even better than 9-7. They went 11-5. They made the playoffs. They upset the Steelers in wild card weekend. They end up losing in the second round to the Chiefs, but they lost 22-17 to the team that made the Super Bowl. For Cleveland, man, the sky. You can feel it. You can see it, man. You can smell the promised land. And it's the first time that Cleveland's felt that way in a very, very long time. There's a lot to be happy about. So what we're talking about today, to kind of jump back, because we're talking about what the Browns have done this offseason, who they've lost, who they've signed, who they've drafted, what my preview is, what my predictions are. When we look at who the Cleveland Browns brought in this offseason and who they re-signed, we look at, Rashard Higgins, who's a guy who I think really stepped up on the scene. And I think he kind of overplayed some of the expectations on him. They get Jadeveon Clowney, Malik Jackson, Malik McDowell, Troy Hill, John Johnson, Malcolm Smith, and Tack McKinley. They took some flyers out on some guys. Like you look at Tack McKinley, you look at Malik McDowell, who kind of haven't really lived up to their expectations, but why not? Throw them on there. If they boom, fantastic. If they bust out, they're not your starters anyway. So that's a great job. They go on, get Jadeveon Clowney to play opposite of Myles Garrett. Very smart move. You're going to have to single team one of them, and it's probably going to be Jadeveon Clowney, and he's going to have all the chances in the world to just really eat this year. And we know he's just a fantastic run defender. He's never really lived up to the pass rush hype, but he's been a great run stopper at that edge position. When we look at departures, we see Adrian Claiborne, we see Olivier Vernon, Sheldon Richardson, Kevin Johnson, and Terrence Mitchell. All in all, I think the positives far outweigh the negatives. I think Olivier Vernon is probably the best player that you lost, and I think you replace him with Jadeveon Clowney. I think that's a win. They lose a few guys in the secondary, and I think the secondary is their biggest weakness. And I think we're going to talk about that here in a second. I think they did a really good job of drafting. They end up going out and getting a Troy Hill, a John Johnson, some guys that we know that they're proven guys. And in the draft, again, we'll talk about it in a second. So let's jump to it. In the draft, they get one of my favorite players in this year's draft, a guy who started to kind of creep up boards as the process went on. He's a guy that, I had a draft special on a different podcast, and I said he'd go in the first round, and people were like, nah, I don't think so. And that is Greg Newsome II, who's I thought he'd kind of land with Tennessee, but Cleveland makes a lot of sense. He's just a guy who's scrappy. He's competitive. He'll pick you off. He'll stick you. I mean, he's not a huge guy, but I just love his energy. I love the way he plays the game. That Northwestern defense was just terrific. They go out and get Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who I don't know how he fell to the second round that late in the second round, and Cleveland grabs him. Like, that's one of the steals of the draft. That was a huge get for the Cleveland Browns. They go in and get Anthony Schwartz, who is a burner, man. He adds another dynamic to that Cleveland Browns offense, and they get James Hudson. I said it when I had my draft special recapped after the draft is over. I thought the Browns had the best draft in the NFL. You look at those top 3 picks, I absolutely love them. They're value picks. They were great team need picks. Because I said that their biggest weakness coming into that draft was their middle tier of that defense, like that linebacking core and that back end. And they shored it up through that draft. Free agency, they did a little bit more. So I absolutely love what Cleveland did this offseason. When we talk about team strengths, okay, and I think it's a clear one, is you look at that running game to play action. I mean, that is Kevin Stefanski's bread and butter. You look at their running backs, it is the best 1-2 punch in the NFL, bar none, and is the best 1-2 punch that we've seen in quite a while at the running back position with Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, 2 guys that are just fantastic running backs, and they are running behind some absolute dogs on the offensive line. You look at Willis Jr., you look at Treader, Conklin, Who else is on that offensive line? Batoni is on that offensive line. And that leaves guys like OBJ, who we kind of forgot about, Jarvis Landry, Higgins, Schwartz, Hooper, all the room in the world, because you have to load up that box to stop that running game. You hit him with that play action. And what we saw from Baker Mayfield at the end of the regular season into the playoffs, he was a top 10 quarterback. I mean, he's getting there where he's maybe efficiency wise close to a top 5 quarterback as far as the end of the season to the playoffs. I mean, he was so highly effective in that Stefanski offense. So, we'll jump to Baker Mayfield here in a second. When we look at weaknesses, again, I mentioned it earlier. I think it was that linebacking core, a little bit of a opposite edge rusher from Myles Garrett in that secondary. But I think they shored up all those needs, like I mentioned before. I mean, and I truly mean this. The Browns have one of the scariest rosters in the NFL. Yeah, the Cleveland Browns. It is going to be a force to be reckoned with, barring injury. They're a team you're going to see them late in the season, and you don't want to see them. The biggest question mark is we saw what Baker did at the end of the season. Can Baker stay at that level? And if he does, a Super Bowl run is definitely in their cards. That's definitely on the table. Like I said, the efficiency, we know that he was a culture changer. And I think that was the biggest thing about Baker. It's kind of like, was he going to go first overall to Cleveland that year? And I said he should have. And I thought he was talented enough to go first, but I thought he was a guy who just brought an attitude. Some people would call it an arrogance. And I think that's what Cleveland needed. They needed someone to just jumpstart that culture, man, jumpstart that fan base, that team. And I think Baker's that guy. He, had some high spots. He had some low spots, and people were kind of like, he's an all right quarterback. But he's never going to be great. And, maybe he never becomes a certified top 5 quarterback, but I don't think they need him to. And he's way more than a game manager. So I think if Baker stays at that level that he was last year, Cleveland's going to be nearly impossible to beat on a week-to-week basis, which gives me to their record prediction. I think they're in the best division in football. And that's, I think, you could argue the NFC West, and I'm fine with that. I completely get that. But I think Pittsburgh's going to be way better than what people think. I think Baltimore's a bunch of dogs. And I think Cincinnati is one of those good, bad teams. They're a team that's probably going to lose 10-plus games, but I think they're going to be in every single game. So when I look at the record prediction, I say 12-5, and I say division champs. I think they take down Baltimore. I think they take down Pittsburgh. And like I said, that's the only reason I say 12-5, and I don't say like a 13-4, just because they have a pretty tough schedule. But I think they will go above and beyond, which gets me to my bold predictions. And now I'm going to leave you with this. Okay, this is bold. I think this year the Cleveland Browns play in the Super Bowl. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that just for clickbait. I really do think that they are drawn up perfectly to beat a Kansas City Chiefs. I think they can get after Patrick Mahomes, which we saw that they had offensive line problems going into the Super Bowl. But I mean, that's the way to get. You drop back as many guys as you can against Patrick Mahomes, and you try to rush with just that front four. Kind of almost what the New York Giants did at the Patriots back in 2007, I believe. So when we look at that, I think they have that recipe to get the interior pressure, get the outside pressure. I think they have the DBs to, cover up a Tyreek Hill and a Travis Kelce as much as possible. And their offense is just going to be so tough. If they stay balanced, they don't get, too run heavy or too pass heavy. And I think Stefanski does a great job of calling plays. So the Cleveland Browns will play in the Super Bowl this year is my bold prediction. Guys, if you like the episode, please help support the show. Make sure you click like and subscribe. All right, guys? And drop in the comments what you guys think. Do you think I'm right? Do you think I'm wrong? Do you think I'm the smartest man alive? Or do you hate me and wish death upon me? Let me know. Until next time, guys, I'll see you later.